Hi friends, I've backed out and widened the screen here because of the time of day it is. It's 3 p.m. Central Time on 3/18, and doesn't matter the 3/18 part, but it's rainbow time. They're just getting started, and so just for the fun of catching a few more of them. Besides, you know, who I am. Don't think it's what you see here, just like who you are isn't what you see in the mirror. I'm a better mirror than that, you know. There's really just one of us here. Is it Ramana Maharshi who says there is no other? I have to tell you, I'm just reporting that, though. That's not from my direct experience yet. I've had tastes of it, but not quite that precise thing. All right, now I've got the journal worked out, the 12D conversation. This is from 2/8, and so I'll be sharing it with you. It's one of the longer ones, and I'll tell you up front, be in heart, folks. People are going to be mentioned here, not with their real names, but, you know, with placeholders for that, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all just other aspects of the one self. And either it's applicable for you or it's not. And if it isn't now, it may be later, and so on and so on. So this is not personal. It's not about these particular people. And if you'll be in heart, you can ride the wave here and you'll get much better information that way. This is, I would say, the most, up to now, the most alchemical journal I've ever experienced. It was at different times through it. There were deep changes, really noticeable changes, shiftings going on inside of me. And so that's why I'm just giving you a bit of a heads up. So you can tune in, and hey, if it can do that for me, it can do that for you, because I am you. All right, here we go. Dear 12D friends, I guess I'm feeling a bit lost. Could use your advice and support. Good day to you. Shall we talk? Hello, dear Teresa Ann. We are right here for you, as we always are. How can we assist? Oh dear. Be back in a minute. Okay, one day in a perfect world, we are all going to be so attuned, tuned in, intuitive, that we won't call at awkward times. Meanwhile, okay, so back with the journal. I say to them, you can help me sort through some things. Yesterday was strange in that I seemed to distance myself from several of those I am closest to, yet without at all intending to do that. I felt I was just following heart. I was even trying to get closer, at least in one case. Would you either look at the record or your own memories of the day, if you're close like that, and advise me? And they say, let us take them one at a time. First, there was Mr. X. In this case, you weren't trying to get closer, but trying to serve his soul, to give him of your best, straight from heart. As it turns out, he wasn't consciously ready for what he received, though he was ready on other levels. He still has the sandcastle he's created of loving and of living with you, of true love winning out. He even came clear with you at one point that he prefers his beliefs because they give him hope. So he clings to at least some of them. This being the case, he cannot see clearly yet, but he will, of course, at that point when he is ready. And so I say, did I push him too far? No, you did not. While his love for you will close him off to some things, it also opens him to others, some that he would not otherwise consider had they not been presented by you. And so I said, was I speaking and acting as truly from heart yesterday as I felt I was? What do you see? Yes, Teresa Ann. What we see is that you've entered into self-doubt. Your service yesterday was as true and as pure as you hope it was. Don't put words into our mouth, dear one. We saw you trying to finish the previous sentence by limiting what we said to 3D. Your service is greater than that. Please don't be afraid of perfection. Welcome it instead as your natural state. Oh, this is so helpful. Now that I look, I see what you mean by self-doubt. It's only obvious. But I was believing it, not accepting that my service could have anything of perfection. I see the remnants of my old self prior to Tony's reading, beliefs in the impossibility of perfection manifesting in 3D. I desire to pull these weeds from the belief garden, and I'd be glad if you would lend a hand, heck, or even do it for me. I know I've set the intent, but I don't know how far that can be taken if you can lend such aid. Their response? Let us go now to Mr. Z, who has come to be relying on you what you think is a bit too much. We agree. Yet you found yourself still answering him, though perhaps not as fully as you once would have. We see that you picked up on his guides telling you they were there for him, but he must turn to them and less to anyone or anything external, so you delivered their message. This was good service. And finally, there is Lady Zed, whose love for you is as intense as she indicates, and her vision as pure. Yet, as you have discovered before and were reminded yesterday, her understanding of you is not perfect. There is never doubt about what she can take, how strong, how pure the truth, for she, like you, is a worshiper of truth. Her heart is true. She is seeing you as somewhat more wounded than you see yourself. And I said, please tell me into what levels or aspects of being is she seeing? She is more able to see into the subconscious of you than you are yet. In this case, however, she brought more of memory into it than was helpful, for she remembered the wounding she saw in you and has been trying so hard to overcome or to heal. There are things you have already moved on from that she wasn't aware of, and so projected them back on you. It was good that you rejected them, for with such powerful vision, things can be created or recreated. Yet we don't mean to indicate that she was totally off base. Nothing like. There was some merit in all that she shared, just not the full purity she felt she was offering. You were accurate, by the way, in bringing her defensiveness to her attention. She will soon, very quickly, be able to see it, but she would not have without you bringing it to her attention. Yes, we saw your thought there. Defensiveness is something you both share to some extent. Yet in this case, what she saw was more a projection. And I said, please, my friends, I want you to look at what I said to her about being more impersonal than personal in this life. I must admit, this is how I see the self. What do you see? We see you're not too far off with this. You do have more, much more of the divine impersonal than most do. Yet you also have more of the divine personal there and available than you are fully or consciously aware of. She sees that, so she naturally works to bring it out. And I said, as I was typing that, I was able to see the self put up defenses against that, against it coming from or through one in female form. Please help me sort this out. We see in your thoughts that you have just come upon an important piece of your puzzle. It is actually more your body than you who objects to such intimacy with another woman. This you hadn't known before, and so when you were put off by the tantric closeness, the intimacy of that, you took that to be yourself responding, not your body. Now there is some release we see with this understanding. That is good. And I said, can you help me understand why she is defensive around this? Preferring not to even use the words sexual or sensual, than to use them and work through the barriers. Yes, Lady Zed has been rejected more than a few times in her life. With such courage as she bears, many there are who will not understand her. While she has triumphed over all, over so much, yet there are some scars left. There are also some other lifetimes speaking up in this, challenges of other bodies, other times. This, however, will or can be cleared up fairly quickly, if she will do the work. Though she rejected your initial message that she was projecting her defensiveness upon you, nonetheless it sowed the fertile seed. She will see soon enough, so be at peace. You did no harm with her. Okay, friends, and thanks. Now, will you speak to me of how I perhaps over-elevated her understanding of me? I am at times surprised to find she is not reading me correctly, which also indicates I may have placed her on a pedestal. Yes, you have to some extent, for her vision is not quite as perfect as you would like. And yes, we feel you gaining new insight here. Take it in. My whole insides just dropped down a bit. I see how I was relying on her for perfect vision of me so that I could take on through her, through what she sees in me, that perfection that is mine. I see now that by admitting the reality that she does not see me perfectly, I must remove some of the depth of belief I have in what she sees in me. Not a lot, but certainly some. Just be open, dear one. Let it in. It is enough. It will do its good work. We see it is sinking in deeply. This is okay. Actually, better than okay. It is fine. Just what you love. It is truth. And I said, so then, would you say that overall, in all such interactions yesterday, heart came through with purity? Or rather, could you quantify by a percentage the purity? We would rather not give you numbers, dear one. They don't have a hope of conveying what you ask. They are too linear. Just know that your service was sufficiently and more than sufficiently pure. It is enough. Now, my friends, help me clear something else up. I still seem to retain at least some belief or beliefs in the impurity of 3D overall. That perfection or real purity or truth cannot fully manifest here. Tony, and this is Sacred Sarah, Tony seems to believe or see otherwise, and I have accepted that my essence or higher self is indeed fully present here. Please speak to perfection, purity, and 3D. We would be delighted. The perfection that is not possible in 3D is a mental construct. The 3D mind is not the Christ mind. This much is correct. Yet, for all other things, yes, perfection is more than possible. It simply is. What we are saying is that the mind's concept of perfection cannot exist here, but that the mind's concept is flawed. Perfection is already here, but of a sort that only heart can see and translate. And I said, wow, that's deep. Okay, going forward, please help me tune in and pull those flawed beliefs when they come up. Help me with clarity of vision, I pray. We are glad to do this. We shall call on your own, not quite fully manifested divine vision to do this. We will work together to replace the flawed beliefs with increased strength of divine vision and with truth. Oh, I could not think of anything better than this. It is beautiful. Now, could you please speak to me of self-confidence? Tony, in her reading, said there are some records in the body's cells that are in the way of manifestation of divine self-confidence. What can you say or do to help me manifest this? For its absence is surely in the way of my rising up on the spiral of light as quickly as I'd like. First, we will disagree that there is anything at all in your way. It is best to not grant anything such power. And I said, agreed, accepted. Then we will say that you are far more the divine bride than you yet realize. We will and are working to help you into this vision, this realization. We have heard you requesting to see yourself through our eyes, or the eyes of light beings not still trapped in 3D. Let us see what we can offer here. You have every bit, every ounce of divine perfection that you could desire. As you know, it is a matter of opening up to it not finding it or creating it. So there is no need to feel in any way insecure. Humble, yes. Insecure, no. Yes, let that sink in deeply. Insecurity is not the truth that you desire. Insecurity is a lie. We see and you feel this deeply sinking in. You have been shown several things in the last days, and you have seen them. They are coming together inside of you now. This is what you're feeling there. Your reality is indeed being adjusted. You are now taking the next step up the rungs of the ladder of light. It is time for that. Wow. Yes, I do feel things readjusting inside. I am open so as to place no block in the way. I release all expectations. Wow, this has been quite some conversation, yet it cannot be contained in the words. There are real changes going on inside, brought on by our sharing. Gratitude shines. Have I been too much in mind of late? Their response: define too much. Have I been so much in mind that it has interfered with my ability to be fully present in heart? Yes and no. Being in mind does set up interference waves, so in that way it interferes with the purity of heart shining forth. Yet heart still shines, and its waves are far stronger than those of mind. So I say, do you have anything to say? Any recommendations on this? Not really. By following heart, you are doing quite well. Oh, wait. There was one more question about Lady Zed that I didn't ask. In a reply to one of her emails where she told me she had set aside the self and all that pertained to it, the identity, I disagreed with her. I told her she still had identity. I felt her going over that last night. This morning, I was going to send her an apology and more or less take back what I said, saying instead that I don't know. What say you? We say we are glad you spoke with us first. To do that would set her back and be a consolation to her ego to make it believe she is right. She has indeed lost a huge portion of her identity in 3D. Just not the whole of it as she had believed. So we suggest you let it stand. It is correctly seen. Okay, this is good, for I want to offer her and all only the best. Now, is my thought that one who has lost all 3D identity or set aside the false self, is that one able to see with complete clarity? Yes and no. There are other things involved. Yes, that one seeing will be piercing, penetrating, and accurate overall. Yet there are other things in action. It is not always to the highest good or benefit to tell someone something that is so purely true. Each soul has different needs, is at a different place, so to speak. It is a confluence of the essences or higher selves of those involved deciding what is best at any one point. I said, this is important to me, for my desire and intent is set to give always of the highest truth I can see. Am I good in that, or does it perhaps require adjustment? You are good in this way. By offering what you give always from heart, then heart takes everything into account. Heart has already communed with the essence of the other with whom you are sharing. So what heart, or your essence, offers through you is what is best and perfect for that moment. This would not be the case if your offering was from anything but heart, of course. Mind has no hope of operating on these levels, 3D mind. Okay, that is good news. I don't desire to ever do anyone any sort of harm. Okay, a new topic. You have perhaps seen me working my way to gaining some understanding of the one people's public trust. I would like to hear you speak on that. What would you like us to say? I want to know if faith in it is well placed. From what I have heard thus far, I take it to be the case that it really exists, and that it has been tested, as the trustee says, in a number of courts. As you can no doubt see, I want very much to believe in this, in its power to bring more than just respite to the enslaved or previously enslaved humanity of this planet. Oh, Teresa Ann, we wish we could tell you that it is perfect as is, and that it will do what it promises. As you well know, there is many a slip betwixt the cup and the lip. When dealing with these magnificently huge numbers concerning money, the temptation is too great for many. It will be the case that much thievery will take place. I said, will this be enough to eradicate the good it is designed to bring? No, we don't mean that. We do mean, however, not to expect the 5 billion worth of silver and gold to arrive at your doorstep any time soon. It may yet, in your lifetime, produce some limited amount, but nothing like what was purely intended. This saddens me greatly, my friends, though I must admit I was not happy to see it promise money, and in such quantities. Most people don't realize that they themselves may well be tempted to misbehave in the presence of such riches. It is best not to cast stones at those who fail to render their highest service regarding this. Yes, dear one, we agree. Now, we would like to draw your attention to several times in this writing where you have been momentarily unsure of who was speaking, us or you. This is evidence of our level of merging, and we celebrate it. Yes, friends, 2 or 3 times at least I have been unsure of who was speaking. I've definitely noticed that. Thanks for the explanation and for highlighting it. Since the One People's Public Trust is meant to operate in 3D, can or will you put any numbers to its likely success? I'd like to know how likely it is to be the necessary checkmate to the powers that were in their keeping humanity in slavery. I am more concerned with that than the wealth it promises to deliver. I just want humanity's freedom. What say you? We say it goes a long way to delivering that. It will take people of vision, and many of them, to implement it, however. We noticed and are pleased with your prayers for protection and heavenly support for the trustee, Heather. recognizing that she stands in the way of the powers that were continuing in their desired pursuits, and thus in some mortal danger. Clearly, things hinge on her for her fearlessness and vision of how to move forward with this. Beloved friends of light, can't you and others on your side lend a huge hand in bringing her and the trust this protection? Please? Would that we had such authority, Teresa Ann. We can do so in any 24-hour cycle we are called on to do so. We cannot enter in of our free will alone, for this is 3D, and it is not a realm in which we of other dimensions have such authority to control. Be assured that we will do what we can. We agree with your current thought to put up a sticky note as a reminder to make that request in every day. Thank you, then. What you say tells me there is great integrity behind the One People's Public Trust, and this is important. Help us, please, to rise up in its defense and support, that it may come to the best possible fruition. We will surely do our part. Rest at peace on that. As it is said, the call compels the answer. Thank you. Those are my main questions, or enough questions anyway, for this time. I'd like to invite you to speak on whatever you will before closing this conversation. Good enough. We'd like to address something you're not very familiar with. The tendency on the part of the USA to want to support all of its citizens. Here we speak of the pure, the true USA, not the current regime of the powers that were who have taken control of both it and much of the world. The true USA is, as you have shared in the video of the rebellious New York State people with regard to having their arms taken and made illegal. This is the spirit of light and of freedom that still runs clear in so very many of you. The more such example is set, the quicker this will come to the fore. Yes, we see you adjusting your beliefs around this. For you did not have faith in the people before, and we saw that. Their hearts run strong and true, dear one. They will come through. It won't be without challenge and even some bloodshed. But it won't take much at all for the people to rise up. You will see this. What the powers that were don't know is how badly they miscalculated in trying to disarm the American people. For instead of this cowing them, it will cause them the more quickly to rise up. It has already caused many to pull their faith out of the current government. Once it is more clearly seen that the USA and other countries as well are but corporations, corporate schemes to enrich the powers that were, the people will rise up. America, which she has some challenging time ahead of her, will not go down and stay down. Her people will not allow it. Oh, it wasn't supposed to be which, it was supposed to be while. America, while she has some challenging time ahead of her, will not go down and stay down. Her people will not allow it. There are enough of you already to prevent that, enough willing to lay your lives on the line and lose them in service to your ideals. The One People's Public Trust supports this. We cannot tell you how long it will last, when it will be over, when the final split of a completed harvest shall come. That remains to be seen. By harvest, that's capitalized here. What's meant is the sorting out of the wheat from the tares at the end times, sort of a thing. So, we cannot tell you how long it will last, when it will be over, when the final split of a completed harvest will come. That remains to be seen. We can say, however, that things are looking quite good. More and more adjustments are now able to be made to mankind since 2012 is past. Your DNA is indeed being rather continually adjusted, with some large adjustments periodically. You are being raised up into light body. We know this will cheer you up. We know it must be so difficult at times to step out in trust and faith behind what heart is saying through you. We have seen you go out on the proverbial limb any number of times. There were a few earlier times when you fell off, but in the great majority of cases, you were correct. I have bolded this whole paragraph here. The mistakes are a part of the perfection, Teresa Ann. Without them, you cannot know clearly and quickly what course adjustments to make. That is why they arise, so that you may the more clearly see and correct your course. Thus, can you see how mind's ideas around perfection or purity are far from accurate? Mind cannot accommodate a perfection that would include any mistake, but mind is incorrect in its assessments and definitions. It is only those who will follow what you and many others teach about entering heart and putting heart in charge of your lives. Only these will be empowered to truly hear you. Not everyone will be ascending, nor taking the 3D body into ascension. But then, you knew this. Yet a larger number than that prophesied or calculated by most who speak out on this will rise. Of those who don't take the body into higher dimensions, of those who lay the body down in death, not all will require further 3D experience. Quite a number of these will also ascend. Thus, from 3D, there will be no easy way to calculate the numbers of those choosing the various paths available. As you have said, following George Kavasilis, ascension, further 3D incarnation, and the techno-future that will also be a choice for 3D. Are there other choices? We'll leave it at this for now, letting your own vision clarify at its own pace. We see that the body tires, that pain increases, so we will call a halt. This has been a good session. It has had far more power than earlier ones, which had power enough. Within this conversation, we are both witness to some deep changes, both being made and, so importantly to you, being perceived in the making. This has been alchemical, and we are glad to see it. We will see more of the same and even further improvement, enhancement of your abilities to walk the worlds of 3D and higher dimensions. Blessings, Teresa Ann. Get some rest. And I closed with thank you from the depths of this heart, dear ones, for what you offer and bring to me and the many you serve. I call for great abundance of blessings for you, as well as for humanity and Mother Earth and all her beings of every sort. Namaste. All love. Now, there is so much in here, my friends. I'm not going to go back and pick through it bit by bit and give deeper explanations. But I will say, if you wonder about something, please ask. Because when they're giving me these understandings, they're giving me more than can fit into words. And so, just as an example, let me see. There was a spot. If I can find it. Oh, this is a long one, isn't it? Okay. There was a spot where they, when they said you are being, and this isn't the personal you, this is all of us, you are being raised up into light body. Okay, and they went on to say, we have seen you, it's hard to step out in faith and trust in what heart is saying through you. We have seen you go out on the proverbial limb any number of times. There were a few earlier times where you fell off, but in the great majority of cases you were correct. Well, they gave me to know, as they said that what they were referring to is a few earlier times I was trying to open up. I knew I could communicate with higher dimensions, but I don't have clairvoyance. I'm not seeing yet. What I have is called clairsentience, and so it's a sensing or a feeling. And so I couldn't see the ones I would be speaking with, and in my attempts to make a connection, I did connect up with a few who were the imposters, playing at being ascended or light beings. And so there were a few times when the limb broke under me and down I went. But then they say in the very next sentence, the mistakes are a part of the perfection. These are written for me, but they're written, they have a broader applicability than that. And I find so much beauty here. And as I told you, there were such deep interchanges going on that it's just very exciting. We're all getting to the point now where we can actually begin to perceive these things. For a lot of years, we've been told by this one and that one, your DNA is changing and these new things are happening on the inside. But in a way, we had to take it on faith. Well, there's a lot of us that have come to realize that we're very sensitive to the cycles of the sun. And so that helps us understand that it feels like a real wallop when there's a CME that hits the earth, when there's a major solar wind. And it helps us have evidence of the internal changes taking place. But now things we're just higher up the spiral of light, is the way I'm seeing it. And so there will be more and more alchemy. Not just for me, folks. Please, it would embarrass the heck out of me if I was just putting this stuff out there with a me label on it saying, oh, look at me, aren't I great? That's not what this is. And anyone who's in heart knows that. So I think I'll leave it at that. Good day. Hi, friends. I've backed out and widened the screen here because of the time of day it is. It's 3 p.m. Central Time on 3/18, and Doesn't matter the 318 part, but it's rainbow time. They're just getting started. And so just for the fun of catching a few more of them, besides, who I am, don't think it's what you see here, just like who you are isn't what you see in the mirror. I'm a better mirror than that, There's really just one of us here. Is it Ramana Maharshi who says there is no other? I have to tell you, I'm just reporting that though. It's not personal. It's not about these particular people. And if you'll be in heart, you can ride the wave here and you'll get much better information that way. This is, I would say, up to now, the most alchemical journal I've ever experienced. It was at different times through it. There were deep changes, really noticeable changes, shiftings going on inside of me. And so that's why I'm just giving you a bit of a heads up. So you can tune in and, hey, if it can do that for me, it can do that for you because I am you. All right, here we go. Dear 12D friends, I guess I'm feeling a bit lost. Could use your advice and support. Good day to you. So that's not from my direct experience yet. I've had tastes of it, but not quite that precise thing. All right, now I've got the journal worked out, the 12D conversation. This is from 2/8. And so I'll be sharing it with you. It's one of the longer ones. And I'll tell you up front, be in heart, folks. People are going to be mentioned here, not with their real names, but, with placeholders for that, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all just other aspects of the one self. And either it's applicable for you or it's not. And if it isn't now, it may be later, and so on and so on. So this is not... Shall we talk? Hello, dear Teresa Ann. We are right here for you, as we always are. How can we assist? Oh dear, be back in a minute. Okay, one day in a perfect world, we are all going to be so attuned, tuned in, intuitive, that we won't call at awkward times. Meanwhile, okay, so back with the journal, I say to them, you can help me sort through some things. Yesterday was strange in that I seemed to distance myself from several of those I am closest to, yet without at all intending to do that. I felt I was just following heart. I was even trying to get closer, at least in one case. Would you either look at the record or your own memories of the day, if you're close like that, and advise me? And they say, let us take them one at a time. First, there was Mr. X. In this case, you weren't trying to get closer, but trying to serve his soul, to give him of your best, straight from heart. As it turns out, he wasn't consciously ready for what he received, though he was ready on other levels. He still has the sandcastle he's created of loving and of living with you, of true love winning out. He even came clear with you at one point that he prefers his beliefs because they give him hope. So he clings to at least some of them. This being the case, he cannot see clearly yet, but he will.